Sneha ma'am, Dr. Sneha, I welcome you. Yes, I think so. Only Rama ma'am and Ari Boscoro sir is been left out. We are waiting for them to join as panelists. They have joined as audience. We are just taking them on this panel, and once they are in, we will start with the session. Pankaj, are you ready? Okay. Ganesh, Rama ma'am has raised her hand. Kindly, please add her as a panel member. She should be joined as panelist, please. I can see Rama ma'am has raised her hand. I request Ari Baskuru sir from United Nations also, because many times it happens that we are unable to see your IDs. So I request Ari Baskuru sir from United Nations to kindly raise your hand so that we can join you as a panel member. Yes, Rama ma'am, welcome. I welcome Dr. Rama Devi ma'am also.
Good morning.
I
Good
request Ganesh, technical person, to add Dr. Anisur Rahman because our patron representative management will be joining through Anisur sir. So kindly make him as panel member. Welcome, Dr. Rama Devi ma'am. Nice to see you here.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All the panel members are here from America, Africa, and India. So we are very honored to have you all here. Welcome once again. Yes, Pankaj, we should start now.
Morning, everyone. I am Pankaj Tandre. On behalf of SSRA Law College, I welcome you all. It gives us immense pleasure to extend a warm and heartful welcome to all distinguished guests, principals, respected faculty members, students, and all participants across from all institutions to this prestigious international conclave on the occasion of International Day Against Drug Abuse. This international conclave titling Safeguarding Innocence Worldwide, international conclave with experts from Africa, India, America on child rights, trafficking, and combating drug abuse. This conclave is jointly organized by Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandals, Swatantra Senani Ramrao Agarkar Law College, and Vighnaharata Trust, Shivajirao S. Jondhle Institute of Law and Research from Asangaon. This conclave makes our firm commitment to address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, protecting children's rights, ensuring their safety from drug trafficking and substance abuse. In observance of this International Day Against drug abuse, and illicit trafficking. These forums bring together global perspective and rich academic discourse to deepen awareness, share effective legal frameworks, and inspire collaborative actions across borders. With the valuable insight of our eminent keynote speaker, distinguished resource persons from South Africa, Nigeria, and India, we hope this conclave will enlighten minds, strengthen our legal community's resolve, and encourage all of us to be active guardians of childhood innocence. Once again, I welcome you all on behalf of these two institutes for this enriching, thought-provoking, and socially impactful conclave. Before we proceed this significant global conclave, it's my utmost honor and privilege to acknowledge and offer our heartful gratitude to our distinguished chief patrons, co-patrons, whose unwavering support and visionary leadership has been always built strongest pillars behind our institutions. Firstly, I would like to thank Sri Prakash Sundarrao Solanke, who is president of our Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, a dynamic educationist and inspiring leader whose dedication has made these institutes across Marathwada region a, a very hub to this urban and rural areas educational development. Secondly, I would like to thank Srimati Varsha Shivajirao Jondhle, who is president of Vighnaharata Trust from Asangaon, a visionary and compassionate leader, remarkable commitment to nurturing quality education in technical and legal education, who is deeply admired. Madam's foresight and unwavering dedication had been shaped the Sri Shivajirao Jondhle Group's institutions into center of holistic learning, discipline, and community services. Her personal involvement in empowering the rural background is truly inspirational and guiding light for all of us. We are truly blessed and privileged to work under the guidance and blessings of both these exemplary personalities, whose continuous support has been inspiring a dream bigger and serve society with sincerity and integrity. It is my honor to introduce our respected principals, who are also the conveners for today's event and true role model for our academic community. Firstly, I would like to introduce Dr. Shahista Inamdar ma'am, who is principal of our SSRA Law College, and her an outstanding academic leader known for her dedication towards student welfare, academic discipline, and holistic institutional development. Respected ma'am has always the forefront of educational development and awareness campaigns that benefit students as well as the larger community. Secondly, I would like to introduce Dr. Purnima Eknath Surve ma'am, who is principal of Shivajirao Jondhle Institute of Law and Research from Asangaon. She is an inspiring and energetic principal admired for her dedication to excellence in legal education, research, and community outreach. Respected ma'am has always motivated students, staffs to contribute actively towards nation's building and social welfare. Both of our respected principals have given their wholehearted support and vision to make this international conclave a success. We thankful to them for their academic leadership and constant encouragement. Now, with respect, I invite respected principal and today's convener, Dr. Shahista ma'am, to deliver a welcome address and share her thoughts with us. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Ma Saraswati la Vandan. Good morning to one and all from India. Just a minute. Pankaj, kindly, please kindly mute yourself. Yeah, thank you so much. So, Ma Saraswati la Vandan, and good morning, one and all. On behalf of MSP Mandal Swatantra Senani Ram Rao Avargarkar Law College, Bid, State of Maharashtra, India, welcome you all in collaboration with Surve ma'am and her institute. I welcome all the dignitaries, the keynote speaker, Her Honor RCP J.K. Vassals from South Africa. Madam, welcome to you. Similarly, I welcome From Africa, Dr. Mary Arthur Jolasnimi. She is from Supreme Court of Nigeria. Welcome you, ma'am. I also welcome from India, Dr. Rama Devi Gudumela, madam, who is a CWC member from Telangana state. I also welcome from America our Dr. Shireen Sayed, ma'am, and president of valedictory session, that is Ari Baskoro sir, who was the part of United Nations working committee. And I welcome all the patrons of international webinar, Shri Prakash Solanke sir, who is president, then Shri Satish Chauhan sir, Shri Rajendra Jagtap sir, all the patrons from our institute, and Shri Advocate K.S. Pandit sir, who is going to give his presidential speech on behalf of our management. Similarly, I also welcome Varsha Shivajirao Jondhle madam, who is president of the institute, Geeta Khare madam, who is vice president, Dr. Sneha Jondhle, who is secretary, and our own very beloved Dr. Purnima Surve, principal of Shivajirao Jondhle Institute of Law and Research, Asangaon. Actually, the intention and object of this international webinar has taken place or came to birth was two mothers, that is Surve madam and myself, which we were having a discussion to have a collaboration, and we were discussing to have a program on today, that is 26th, and 26th, the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. So we thought that the best thing which we can do is awareness to all the people through this webinar. And I'm very much sure that so much learned dignitaries are being present here, and it will be an intellectual feast to everyone. Our law college, having legacy of 46 years, we have long listed alumni, which includes various government officials, judicial officers, and well-renowned advocates from our college. We are having various law courses, that is LLB, LLM, that is Master of Laws. We are having diploma courses, and we are also having various certificate courses around the nation and also around the globe. People can join us with a very minimum fees, that is artificial intelligence and human rights. We have cyber law, we have environmental law, drafting, legal drafting skills, and for intellectual property rights. And the basic object of our college is to carry out the responsibility of dissemination of knowledge with a missionary zeal, so that students in general and students of weaker section in particular may acquire competitive merit and excellence in legal education. That is why Asangaon and Bid, which belongs to Maharashtra, India, which belongs to a very backward and a weaker section, but still we are here with not only our country, India, but also Africa and America, and not only that, but even persons from United Nations. So we are the connecting thread to everyone. And I also wish to like to say that our college has been named after the great freedom fighter and parliamentarian Swatantra Senani Ram Rao Awarkar Law College. And I'm very happy. And once again, I welcome everyone. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm and insightful words. Your address has perfectly paved the way for today's session and enriched us to contribute thoughtfully to this important dialogue. Now, with great respect, I invite other esteemed principal of Shivajirao Jondhle Institute of Law and Research from Asangaon, Dr. Purnima Eknath Surve, ma'am, who is also today's event's co-convener. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning to all the dignitaries, respected guests, eminent speakers, and all my dear participants. I am Dr. Purnima Eknath Surve. I am the principal of Shivajirao S. Jondhle Institute of Law and Research, Asangaon, Maharashtra, and the co-convener of today's international conclave. So it is both my honor and my privilege to welcome you all in this international conclave on the occasion of International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Our institution, it is situated in a rural and an aspirational belt of Asangaon, that is in Thane, Maharashtra, and we take immense pride in bridging the gap between the global legal discourse and the grassroots realities. We as an institution, we firmly believe that impactful awareness and meaningful reform, as what Shaista ma'am said, it must begin where it is needed most, that is within the heart of our communities, because it is from the places like our, that is Beed and Asangaon, it is like the places like our that the seeds of social transformation, it must be sown, it must be nurtured by education, justice, and collective will. So, at a very outset, I bow my head in respectful remembrance of our beloved founder president, Honorable Dr. Shivajirao Sakharam Jondhle sir, whose visionary ideas and ideals laid the strong foundation on which our institution stand tall today. I also take an opportunity here to gratefully acknowledge the guidance and enduring support of leadership of Vighnaharata Trust, that is Honorable Varsha Shivajirao Jondhle Madam, the President of Vighnaharata Trust, Mrs. Geeta Khare Madam, the Vice President Vighnaharata Trust, Honorable Dr. Sneha Har Jondhle Madam, Secretary Vighnaharata Trust. Madam is present with us today here as a panelist member, and Honorable Mr. Har Jondhle sir, Director Vighnaharata Trust, and Honorable Mr. Preetam Anil Deshmukh sir, Director Vighnaharata Trust. So their leadership continues to illuminate our path, empowering us to uphold excellence in education, commitment to social transformation. I also want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to Shri Honorable Shri Prakash Solanke sir. He is the patron for Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal. Honorable Shri Satish Chavan sir, Secretary for Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, and Honorable Dr. Shaista Salim Khan Inamdar Madam, Principal for Swatantra Senani Ramrao, Awargaonkar Law College, Beed, a very close friend of mine, because I am very much honored to acknowledge Madam, because she is a visionary academic leader for her dedication to legal education, social awareness, women empowerment. It is known to everyone. So with sincere gratitude, I want to place it on record that we have just not merely collaborated with us, but we have embraced this partnership with warmth, respect, and the spirit of true academic solidarity. So this conclave, what I want to say, is just not an academic initiative, but it is a collective responsibility to create awareness and to inspire legal consciousness and to take action against drug abuse and human trafficking, two of the most important, gravest issues plaguing our society. I also thank my distinguished speakers from India and abroad for sharing their time and insights today. Your contributions will certainly leave a lasting impact on our learners. And to our dear students who are the hearts of this initiative, may this platform, I pray to God that may this platform motivate you to become not only successful professionals, but also socially responsible citizens and change makers. So let us unite in thought, action, and resolve to build a society where every child is safe, every voice is valued, and every justice is served. Thank you, Jai Hind. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Pankaj sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your heartfelt words and valuable insight. Your message has truly set a positive and purposeful tone for these sessions ahead. Nextly, I would like to invite with great pride our supporting pillar, Advocate K.S. Pandit sir, who is member of our College Development Committee, to kindly address the gathering. Pandit sir.
Good morning, one and all of you. Myself, Advocate K.S. Pandit, member of the CDC Development Board of the SSRA Law College. This law college has been established in 1979. Since then, it is working in the educational field, particularly the law field. This college is established by our late leader, Swatantra Senari Ramrao Agar, with the purpose of giving the legal knowledge to all the rural areas. This college is established in a very socially and a backward area of Bid district. This Bid district is also known as a workers districts because it mostly provides workers to all the factories around Maharashtra. This our institution, which is named as the Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, has been established in 1960, and since then it has cherished the desire of the people of this area. The Mandal, which is formed in 1960, has 12 arts, commerce, and science colleges, 68 high schools, and 31 junior colleges. Besides that, we have 3 law colleges, B.Ed colleges, and 6 English school, engineering and polytechnic schools. Our law college has been participating in the development of various fields, whether it is social, economic, or professional manner. We are glad to welcome you all to this webinar. My best wishes and congratulate both the principals and the faculty members of both the colleges. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
sir.
Pandit sir.
Thank you,
It
sir,
was
for your
great honor
always
for us to
support.
have you.
Now, I would like to invite with great pride and respect our esteemed co-patron, Dr. Sneha Jondhle, Madam, who is Secretary of the Shivajirao Jondhle College Trust, kindly address the gathering. Dr. Sneha, ma'am.
Hello, good morning, everyone. As the co-partner of this international conclave, I feel deeply honored to be a part of this noble initiative on International Day against the drug abuse and illicit trafficking. This platform, I hope, is more than a discussion. It's a movement towards the awareness, protection, and the action. Let us join hands to build a future where our youth are informed, empowered, and safe from the shadow of the addiction and trafficking. Together, we are the voice of the change and the guardians of tomorrow. I thank you all the patrons, co-patrons, then the national, international speakers who are making the event successful today and for this International Day. And it is truly a very exciting event that we are going to see in this 2-3 hours. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. The
Yeah,
patrons like you always inspired us to organize events like this. After these
thank you, sir.
welcome addresses,
Thank you, sir.
it is my privilege to ask our senior faculty member, Dr. S.A. Rahman, sir, to introduce today's distinguished speaker, keynote speaker, Her Honor, RCP Jackie Vessels. Rahman, sir.
Good morning to all. This is my privilege to introduce today's keynote speaker, Her Honor RCP Zaki Bezel, is the regional court president of the Limpopo Regional Division, South Africa, serving in this esteemed position since 2009 and a regional magistrate since 2003. Ma'am began her career as a prosecutor in 1983 and has over 4 decades of experience in judicial service, legal education, and law reforms. She has developed numerous training programs for aspiring judicial officers and legal professionals and has contributed significantly to national and international initiatives on gender-based violence, cyber violence, access to justice, and environmental crimes. She serves as a board member of the Rules Board of the Court of Law since 2012, chairs key committees including ADR, e-Justice, and is a council member of the South African Judicial Education Institute. Ma'am is also widely published and actively collaborate with the UNODC on handbooks and training resources. We are deeply honored to have Her Honor with us today to deliver the keynote address and share her invaluable insights with all of us on judicial activism and United Nations perspective to protect children from illicit trafficking and drug abuse. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours, ma'am. Pankaj.
Kindly unmute, ma'am. You are muted.
Yes.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now it is time to call on our today's keynote speaker, Her Honor Jackie Wessels, ma'am. Ma'am, over to you.
त्यांना unmute करा ना. We are not able to hear you, ma'am. Just unmute yourself. She's not able to unmute. Ganesh, I request the technical team.
Good morning to everybody. Apologies.
Yeah.
It seems they had put me back on attendee and not the panelist. Thank you and for the honor of being part of this distinguished panel. I've been requested to speak about judicial activism and United Nations perspectives to protect children from illicit trafficking and drug abuse.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but your voice is echoing.
I think so. She has joined from 2 instruments.
No, I'm just on one device.
There is some disturbance.
There's a lot of echoing. Thank you. I hope it's better now. Oh, no. The International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, or colloquially known as the World Drug Day, is marked on 26 June every year to strengthen action and cooperation in achieving a world free of drug abuse. This year's World Drug Day calls for investment in prevention, including justice, education, healthcare, and alternative livelihoods, which are regarded as being the building blocks of sustainable resilience. This campaign this year is stated as Break the Cycle, #Stop Organized Crime. This is meant to highlight the need for coordinated long-term action to break the cycle of organized crime and drug trafficking. And to do this specifically to address the root causes to invest in prevention and to build stronger health, education, and social systems. I thought it would be of use to mention the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres' message for this year, that the global illicit drug trade continues to extract a devastating toll, claiming lives, ravaging public health services, and fueling violence and organized crime. Drug trafficking is tearing through communities with substances that are more potent, more dangerous, and more deadly than ever. Meanwhile, criminal networks prey on the most vulnerable, in particular women and the youth, as they rake in billions annually through the illicit drug trade. This year, we shine a light on prevention as the most essential strategy for halting the flow of drugs that fuels organized crime worldwide. He continued to say that we must reduce the demand through investing in education, treatment, and harm reduction measures and care, targeting the machinery of production by eliminating illicit laboratories and offering farmers viable alternatives, severing trafficking networks by strengthening global trade routes and choking the financial flow of criminal networks, while always ensuring respect for human rights. He stated with a request, let us recommit to ending drug abuse and trafficking, uniting in dismantling criminal networks and breaking the cycle of suffering and destruction once and for all. It is clear that the aim of this year's campaign is to raise awareness about the importance of treating people who use drugs with respect and empathy, to provide evidence-based voluntary services for all, also offering alternatives to punishment, prioritize prevention, and leading with compassion. Many people who use drugs face a lot of stigma and discrimination, which can further harm their physical and mental health and preventing them from accessing the help they need. The campaign, therefore, also aims to combat stigma and discrimination against people who use drugs by promoting language and attitudes that are respectful and non-judgmental. Over the years, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the UNODC, has recognized the importance of taking a people-centered approach to drug policies with a focus on human rights, compassion, and evidence-based practices. So the focus is on the need to put people first by ending stigma and discrimination and strengthening prevention. This also means that the focus should be a lot more on rehabilitation rather than punishment and incarceration for minor drug offenders. A lot of people turn to drugs to cope for a variety of different reasons. And we also need to know that some drugs are even legal. However, they are being misused. And it also, the fact that it's legal doesn't mean it's less dangerous. Turning towards the perspectives to protect children from illicit trafficking and drug abuse, the starting point will have to be the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. The Convention on the Rights of the Child stands alone among the core United Nations human rights treaties in setting out a human right to protection from drugs. Article 33 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child specifically provides that state parties shall take all appropriate measures, including legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to protect children from the illicit use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances as defined in the relevant international treaties, and to prevent the use of children in the illicit production and trafficking of these substances. Looking at Article 33, it essentially covers two main areas. The one relates to drug use, and the other to the involvement in the drug trade. The Article 33 also link up to the three United Nations Drug Control Conventions. There is the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961, the Convention on Psychotropic Substances of 1971, as well as the Convention Against Illicit Trafficking in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances of 1988, the so-called Vienna Convention. These are the relevant international treaties to which Article 33 refers as well. The preamble of the Vienna Convention sets out, by way of justification for the provisions in the Convention, the deep concern of states parties that children are used in many parts of the world as an illicit drug consumers market, as well as for purposes of illicit production, distribution, and trade in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, which entail a danger of incalculable gravity. This speaks to the issues of drug use and the involvement in the drug trade that is addressed in Article 33. So both the Convention on the Right of Children as well as the drug control system have a specific view that states have an obligation to protect children from drugs, as well as a concurrent obligation to control those drugs in very specific ways. The prevention of the use or the protection of children from illicit use place it essentially within the basic health and welfare cluster, while the prevention of the use of children in illicit production and trafficking is regarded as a special protection measure as well. And these place very or requires very specific obligations on the parts of state parties. The drug supply chain imperils children at each stage, from the production to the use. Children are harmed through drug use, including parental drug dependence, as well as drug-related violence exploitation, in trafficking, and a range of other ways. Apologies. It doesn't help us just talking about the fact that children have a right to protection from drugs. What matters is what the states do to implement that right.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Entered into international human rights law, through which is rightly recognized as a milestone in the development of child rights. The question remains as to what, in practical terms, this means for children to have a human right to the protection from drugs. Children are also entered into the international drug control law through punitive and regressive drug treaties, a characteristic that is justified by its own terms because of the international nature of the organized drug trade and the importance to ensuring that it be dealt with in a strict manner. The Convention on the Rights of Children is a human rights document. Well, the drug conventions was put in place to control the drug market and provide for transnational criminal law with arguably less regard to human rights. An interesting aspect is the case of incitement. Incitement is included in the Vienna Convention, which was drafted at more or less the same time as the Convention on the Rights of the Child. It was easier in effect to include a measure regarding clear freedom of expression concerns and other legal problems in a treaty that drafters knew contained elements that should be potentially unconstitutional in some states than in one focusing on protecting human rights. There's been an ongoing disagreement among researchers and NGOs about Article 33. Some saw it as an important check on state actions in drug control, and others see it as a child right confirmation of the existing drug control apparatus and the concurrent development of the Vienna Convention and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, providing support for this view. Given the human rights risk associated with drug control, this has been a serious debate for child rights scholars and advocates over the years. Protecting children from drugs will be carried out in the context of drug policies and not just in an abstract realm of child right implementation. The hope is that measures have been put in place pursuant to the Vienna Convention that is translated into child rights compliance. When we are looking at the Convention on the Rights of Children, Article 3, dealing with the best interest of the child, is the overarching principle. However, given the widespread influence of the drug issue in many spheres of children's lives, there are other convention articles that is also of importance. For example, Article 13, that children should have the right to receive accurate and objective information about drugs and related harms. Also read with Article 17, that children should be protected from misinformation about drugs and from material injuries to their well-being. Even looking at Article 18, sub 2, considering that children of parents with drug dependence are at risk, not just of abuse, but also of latent drug use themselves. And assistance to their parents is also an important form of protection and prevention ultimately. Looking also at Article 19, children who use drugs or with parents who are drug dependent and those involved in the drug trade are at risk of various forms of neglect and abuse. Article 24, children and young people who do use drugs cannot forfeit their right to health and require programs specifically targeted for their health needs. Other articles such as 27 and 28 and 30 are also of importance. Article 28, for example, though obviously education plays a protective role with regard to delaying drug use initiation and protecting children from exploitation. On the other hand, school-based intervention to control drug and drug abuse at schools may violate the right to education. For example, random testing, the use of dogs, and strip searches. Children and young people who use drugs and have been involved in the drug trade have been subjected to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. In which instance Article 37 is of importance to have a look at. Going back to Article 40, since children and young people use drugs and who are involved in the drug trade are involved in criminality, it requires the attention to the juvenile system, justice system standards. Millions of children throughout the world suffer harm as a result of crime and abuse of power and therefore come in contact with the criminal justice system. It is important that we ensure that the justice systems are well equipped to prevent and respond to violence and the traumatization of children getting involved within the criminal justice system. There should be proper access to justice for children with the promotion of child-sensitive investigation and court procedures, non-custodial sanctions, restorative justice, diversion, recovery and reintegration of children, and the prevention of abuse and exploitation. The vulnerabilities of children in the criminal justice system due to their age and still developing levels of maturity require that special measures be taken to ensure their rights are adequately protected. We should also remember that these kind of crimes takes an enormous physical, financial, and emotional toll on its victims. Unfortunately, often in the criminal justice systems, victims of crime are forgotten, re-victimized, and especially children unable to fully participate in proceedings and decisions that concern them and do not always receive the assistance, support, and protection they need. A fair, effective justice system is a system that respects the fundamental rights of child victims and witnesses. It should focus on the need to prevent victimization, to protect and assist child victims and witnesses, and treat them with compassion and respect for their dignity in accordance with the rights enshrined in the Convention on the Rights of the Child. In this regard, the United Nations guidelines on justice in matters involving child victims and witnesses of crime are of importance to all of us. Justice for children should aim to ensure that all children, irrespective of their status, are served by the justice system in their best interest and in accordance with international norms and standards. Every year, millions of children come into contact with the justice system, maybe for a variety of different reasons, either due to the fact that they're in conflict with the law or because they witnessed or became victims of crimes, or a combination of both, especially where children are being used by organized crime to participate within the illicit trafficking of drugs and related substances. The juvenile justice system should operate in a belief that intervening early in delinquent behavior will deter them from engaging in criminal behavior as adults. There are various different ways in which we can ensure whether or not it's children in conflict with the law or children as witnesses are or victims within these offenses are being protected in our courts. For example, while testifying, that they testify in camera. In South Africa, they can testify outside of the courtroom with the use of technology and have the right to have an intermediary, which is essentially a specialized interpreter that will ensure that the child is able to follow and understand any of the questions. The use of technology had also made it possible to ensure that witnesses, including experts, can testify in our courts from anywhere in the world, which improved the ability of prosecution to prevent relevant and provide necessary evidence to prove cases. Overall, it is important that a holistic and right-based approach is adopted by all of us in the interpretation of international and domestic legislation and in the implementation thereof. And this is important to ensure that we have a trauma-informed and victim-centric approach when dealing with drug-related offenses to ensure that the best interest of the children involved as users and within the illicit trafficking are being considered, protected, and their rights being promoted. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed a pleasure for host India, our country, that we can have you, and we all are very proud and really a great honor for all of us. So now I request all the panel members to please on your videos so that we can have a group photograph with ma'am. I request all the panel members to please on your videos so that we can have a group photograph, please. Photo panel त्याला मी नाही आता तुझ्या पिन काढायला ना पिन काढायला Ganesh, pin, please remove the pin so that we all can come together, all the panel members.
Photo ke Ganesh.
Yes, and please mute. Yeah. It was a great honor, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Asha, ma'am, who have really taken so much efforts. And we could connect you and all the FIDA members, that is International Federation of Women Lawyers, who stood by me for this program. And really, I thank from my bottom of my heart to thank all the ladies out there from FIDA. Thank you so much. Yes. Now we will start with our technical session. So, over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our first technical speaker, Dr. Mary Arthur Jolasnimi, who is a respected legal practitioner and solicitor of Supreme Court of Nigeria. Dr. Mary specializes in human rights and constitutional law with a strong commitment to a gender justice and advocacy. She is currently head of clinical legal studies at Philomath University and has previously served as head of the Department of Public and International Law at the same university in Nigeria. Beyond academics, Dr. Mary is founder of the Demau Legal Arcade and also an accredited mediator and conciliator with the Institute of Chartered Mediator and Conciliators of Nigeria. Today, Dr. Mary will share her expert insights on combating trafficking in overlapping emergencies and a human right discourse. Ma'am, we are honored to have you with us today. The virtual stage is yours. Over to you, ma'am.
You're muted, Mary ma'am. Mary ma'am, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dr. Sanchita. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. I bring you greetings from the Federal Capital Territory of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Today's conversation aims at interrogating the persisting tactics of traffickers in persons as we celebrate the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, aiming at safeguarding innocence worldwide. I shall be contributing my voice to the discussion by looking at how best we can combat trafficking in overlapping emergencies. And the conversation is going to take a human rights discourse. Like I said earlier, that today's conversation aims at interrogating the persistent tactics that are engaged by traffickers in overlapping emergencies, particularly women and children who are most vulnerable in every ramification, especially in time of emergencies. The aim of this conversation is to look at how best we can shrink the path, dismantle their blocks, and ensure a safe place, even in time of emergencies, for women and children and the citizens globally. Now, we shall be looking at several conversations on what trafficking looks like. Of course, persons of good conscience have critiqued and frowned in strong terms about trafficking in persons as it persists in the present civilization. The modern-day exploitation of persons, especially women and girls, is alarming and is highly criticized by people of good conscience. This surge has prompted governments around the world to set up strategies towards curbing the surge of trafficking in persons. Like the immediate past discussant has done elaborate conversation on the use of illicit drug and trafficking amongst young people and why it should be frowned at and stopped generally. So I'm going to take my conversation from specifically the Nigerian perspective. So despite government strategies and non-state actors at shrinking the processes, especially in overlapping emergencies, as it is the case in Nigeria, the surge of trafficking persists. of course, human trafficking has been given several definitions, and our conversation is not looking at what the definition is. But it is necessary for me to quickly look at what the United Nations Trafficking in Person Protocol had said about human trafficking. That it is, he looked at it as an organized crime, that human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of person by such means as threats or the use of force or other forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, or deception for the purpose of exploitation. So human trafficking, it's not just only a violation of rights, it is one of the most ingrained human rights violation of our time and a crime against all laws. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the ground norm for which every other legislation or norms takes precedence from, in Section 33 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, provides for constitutional protection against slavery and forced labor or compulsory labor, sexual exploitation, and deprivation of personal liberty. The Constitution further provides that the dignity and sanctity of the human person should be maintained and enhanced. Now, Nigeria went further to ensure that there is a special legislation against trafficking, and it enacted the Trafficking in Persons Prohibitions Law Enforcement and Administration Act 2003, which was amended in 2015 to the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Law Enforcement and Administration Act 2015. Now, the Nigerian legislation provides a comprehensive legal and institutional framework for the prohibition, prevention, detection, prosecution, and punishment of human trafficking and related offenses in Nigeria. In order to ensure the proper functionality of this act, the act further established the National Agency for the Prohibition of Traffic in Persons, NAPTIP, on the 14th of July 2003. Now, the essence of this institution was to protect victims of human trafficking, provide for human trafficking offenses, the specific offense of attempt, or the actual procurement, export, and import of minors with or without their consent. Now, as far as the kidnapping of minors, trafficking of minors is concerned, their consent is immaterial. And how do they do this? They engage the means of trade, fraud, or drugging for purposes of consensual or forced defilement, or seduction, prostitution, pornography, or other activities of sexual nature within or outside Nigeria for the purpose of trafficking or engaging the young ones in this menace. They also made available in Nigeria the Child Rights Act. Now, knowing too well that the ignorance of the child cannot be overemphasized, the Child Rights Act 2003 sets out the rights and responsibilities of a child in Nigeria and provides for a system of justice that cares and supervises what is done to the child and what the child does. The Act in Section 33 and 32 of the Act prohibits all forms of sexual abuses on the child. Section 21 of the Child Rights Act 2003 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also frowns at child marriage. We know in several domains of the world, children are given out in marriage. It has become a menace and has been critically frowned at by persons of good conscience here in Nigeria, where a child is someone that is below the age of 18, is given out in marriage simply because of a particular factor that would have prompted the family to push the child into getting married at that tender age. So the Child Rights Act in Section 23 or 21 up to 23 says no, prohibits and provides for punishment for persons who pushes children into child marriage. And also in Section 25 of the Child Rights Act 2003 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also prohibits the exposure of children to the use, production, and trafficking of narcotic drugs. So today, as India sets framework and condemn the illicit use of drugs and trafficking in children. The same is here in Nigeria because Section 25 says no and prohibits punishment for everyone that exposes a child or encourage a child to get involved in the use of drug. It prescribes a fine for the exploitation of children and also prohibits the buying, selling, hiring, or otherwise dealing in children for the purposes of hacking, begging, of arms, prostitution, or other similar practices. Now, recently, in Africa, in Nigeria to be precise, people have been are currently getting engaged in child selling and buying. Once begin to wonder, a child that doesn't know his right or her left, why will you want to trade in children? So the Child's Rights of 2003 in section 30 says no to every act that looks like or every practices that exposes a child into hacking or begging of harms by for any other adult. So, looking at the very troubling issue that antagonizes humanity globally, which is the trafficking in person, which undermines the rule of law, embarrasses Nigerian security structure, and affects the well-being of the trafficked victims' relative. Now, when victims are trafficked out, at a point, the parents, the relatives, the family gets to know that this person is not in a safe place and begin to get worried. So human trafficking is a crime of exploitation, and it is one of the fast growing type of transitional organized crimes globally, and tens of millions of people fall victim of this crime each year. Now, traffickers have techniques, they have tactics, they have ways for which they engage and how they convince their victim. So as a result of the techniques used by traffickers, they ensure that victims fall prey to them. And one of the techniques they engage in is false educational promises. Traffickers come with all forms of false educational promises. It is lamentable to see an increased number of Nigerians and in several other parts of the world still living in absolute poverty, especially in our rural areas. Of course, the effect of poverty, economic instability, has affected the low-income and rural dwellers and even those in the urban centers. Because of lack and due to low income and the inability to provide good education for their children, families jump at educational promises abroad for their children. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, please.
No problem, madam.
Hello,
No
hello,
problem.
everyone.
You're audible now.
Okay, I'm sorry, please. And so families due to poverty jumped at the false educational promises that traffickers bring before families. And also we look at promises of good lucrative jobs. They bring promises of giving good lucrative jobs. So traffickers prey on vulnerabilities. The promise of good lucrative work, according to United Nations Global Report on Trafficking in 2020, had posited that globally, traffickers look at the poor situation of persons. They said that poverty is the primary risk factor for over 50% of people who are trafficked. Of course, when you lack financial capacity, traffickers will know that and approach you and make offers of giving you lucrative jobs abroad. So traffickers paint a picture of lavish pay. They tell you, I'll get you a good job overseas where you'll be earning $3,200 per month. Of course, it creates an offer that seems impossible to turn off. So people living in very low income states will just jump at this lucrative job offer, and they are easily convinced and trafficked out of their comfort zone. Now, the conversation for today is basically on trafficking in overlapping emergencies. What are overlapping emergencies? They are situations where several distinct crises or emergencies occur simultaneously in a rapid succession and then impact on the life of the people in that region or domain. So this crisis can be natural disaster, public health crisis, social unrest, climate change, economic downturns, and insurgency. Now, I will dwell more on insurgency because that is the pandemic that we are facing here in Nigeria. Insurgency in Nigeria has taken a toll on the educational system in Nigeria. These are man-made emergencies caused by the Boko Haram insurgency, which has ushered in several challenges in rapid succession and which has threatened human existence and the livelihood of the people with disastrous consequences on the following. Like I said, the educational outcomes of the education has been one of the biggest casualties of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria, leaving over 3 million children, according to UNICEF report, on the emergency for educational support. So this insurgency attack on schools has are closed down as children in the northeastern part of Nigeria are living in so much horror that they do not want to go to school anymore. A typical example of such is the case of Leah Shaibu. On the 19th of February 2018, the Boko Haram insurgency broke into government girls' science secondary school, Dapchi, in Yobe State, northeastern part of Nigeria, and made away with 110 girls. Government and state actors have intentionally made efforts to recover these girls back to their family. And over the years, efforts at bringing these girls in their complete number back to their family has been a work in progress. And we are hoping that in the nearest future, Leah Shaibu will be able to be reunited back with her family. But the frustrating thing about the case of this educational truncating by Boko Haram insurgency, which has caused a kind of overlapping emergency in the northeastern part of Nigeria and several other parts of Nigeria, has affected the educational system in that region. And we know too well that education is the only key. Education is the reason why this conclave is held. Education is the reason why we are here to share health conversation and look at how to straighten legal framework and put our voices together to ensure that trafficking is nipped at the bud. So the effect of overlapping emergencies in a region does a lot to educational system and also affects the shelter of the persons. Affected persons in that region will lose their shelter, their homes, and will be disconnected with their families in their run for life. Since the beginning of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria in 2009, over 1.8 million people have been displaced from their homes across the northeastern region, according to UNICEF. And these displaced persons are mostly affected, pushed off from their homes, and they are relocated to a semi-safe terrain known as the Internal Displaced Persons Shelter, the IDPs. And at the IDP center, girls and their children are targeted by kidnappers, by traffickers. Girls and children are targeted by traffickers. They are abused, exploited, and confused. Most of the time, abducted out of their comfort zone to a place where they seem not to know. So people in the internally displaced shelter live a life of pains. They are sustained in very poor condition with obstacles to trade and means of livelihood, and they cannot trade. So IDP shelter, which mostly is in the epic center of crisis within within the zone are faced with dozens of conflict-related incidents on daily basis, which makes life in this region very volatile. Of course, residents are exposed to severe acute malnutrition and lack of food insecurity. Lack of food security, they lack good drinking water, homes they are taking off. So those people in this emergency conflict zone are vulnerable to traffickers in several disguise. They are vulnerable to traffickers in several disguise because traffickers show up knowing that they are in lack, they are in need, they need a particular thing. So they show up with in the pretext of convincing them that they have the solution. And this have been the time in history. So how can we combat trafficking? How can it be cropped in overlapping emergencies? Don't forget, my conversation is from the Nigerian perspective because the lead speaker had already done an elaborate discussion on international legal framework on how to combat, how to crop illicit drug abuse by children and trafficking, and how to ensure safe space for women. So I decided to take my conversation from the Nigerian perspective. Looking at the overlapping emergencies, the Boko Haram and the herdsmen issue that in Nigeria that has happened in recent time, and in intertwined situation, leaving the people in a very devastating state. The way to cope this issue, my contribution is that it requires a multi-pronged approach, which focused on preventive protection and partnership. Now, security agencies must be strengthened and equipped. Border security must be severe, prevent movement of trafficked persons. Security agencies must be specialized in human trafficking and training, which will help them to identify suspected instances of trafficking. Now, very important is to create community awareness. This is key. This requires sharing, discussing the techniques or tactics that are used by traffickers. Of course, when there is community awareness amongst the persons in the region where these emergencies are occurring in rapid sequence, they will know the appearances or what are the techniques that are introduced by traffickers. No matter the lavish, well-paid job, the lucrative job, the wonderful means of livelihood, the educational promises, and the persuasion, the cohesion that would have been mostly by known persons. So victims' awareness is key. Sharing community awareness, letting the residents of the community where these insurgencies are happening in rapid sequence to know what are the techniques that are employed by traffickers is key. And also addressing the root cause of vulnerability should be addressed alongside underlying factors that make victims influenced by traffickers. And such of those root cause of vulnerability is the lack of education, like I mentioned earlier, poverty, because once there is no money, once there's no circulation of money in an overlapping emergency, the people look out for help. They intentionally look out for help and they become vulnerable to any provision that comes their way. Now, government should ensure, government and state actors, that's why there's need for partnership to ensure that social inequality is cropped at that point in time. Gender issues should not be considered at all. Of course, gender issue is a crime against human rights, is a crime against humanity, where a particular set of persons are treated as lower beings simply because they are that person. Section 42 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, had criticized, cautioned that any disparity on a person simply because of the gender of that person is an offense. So social inequality should be curtailed as the root cause of vulnerability is being addressed. So people should be treated equally at every point in time, even at the internally displaced homes, which happens to be a temporary place of harbor for persons in overlapping emergency. Another critical point to be looked at is displacement. Particular attention should be paid on the risk of traffickers amongst internally displaced persons. Internally displaced persons are persons that have lost their homes. They can no more go back home. So government move them, like in Nigeria, they move them to a safe place, so to say, which is mostly in schools or warehouses where they have lost their comfort. The comfort of their homes is no more there. So traffickers prey on the vulnerability of this person. So attention should be placed amongst persons in internally displaced homes, because this group of persons are often vulnerable to exploitation due to the pitiable state of life in the shelter and the low and no income after being displaced from their comfort zone by insurgency. So these displaced persons need support within the safe shelter and good means of livelihood, so as not to fall prey to the seemingly good promises of traffickers. And also, there should be fostering of collaboration with international agencies and the other government agencies to ensure that traffickers do not have a safe place within emergency situations. And also, there should be need for adequate resources and mobilization of support to displaced persons in overlapping emergencies, so that they are not attracted to traffickers' gimmicks. And furthermore, stricter consequences for human trafficking should be introduced at every point in time. This requires coordination between different countries. Like I mentioned earlier on, collaboration would be able to help so much in overlapping emergencies. So law enforcement agencies and anti-trafficking field experts should come together to collaborate with countries or regions that have overlapping emergencies, so as to ensure that they block every part of traffickers within the communities, to ensure that they do not continually explore these vulnerable persons within that community. In conclusion, I want to mention that combating trafficking in overlapping emergencies requires a comprehensive safeguard, which commences by addressing the root cause of vulnerability. Thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me? Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was really a great honor to hear you, ma'am, from Africa, and it was really a nice meeting in Colombia, so that we could at least get an opportunity to get coordinate today again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. And I request all the panel members to give an honor to Mary ma'am, and we can have a group photograph with her for this technical session. So I request all the panel members to please on your videos so that we can have, and I request to technical team, so kindly pin all of us and we can have a group photo with ma'am. It was really very inspiring session, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure. Thank you for this technical session. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, ma'am. We should start with technical session second. To introduce this session speaker, I invite our senior faculty member, Professor S.A. Harade, sir, who will introduce Dr. Rama Devi, ma'am. Harade, sir, over to you.
Pankaj is not seen on the screen. Kindly introduce. I can't see her eyes are here on the screen. You can introduce her, please.
Good afternoon to all. It is my pleasure to introduce our second technical speaker, Dr. Rama Devi Gurmela, an accomplished legal academician and practitioner with over 14 years of rich experience in both academia and the legal industry. Dr. Rama Devi is a gold medalist in LLB from University College, Usmania University, and an expert in women and child rights, human rights, international law, and criminal law. Before serving as a member of Child Welfare Committee for Rangareddy District, she was a faculty member of ICFAI Law School, Hyderabad, and is widely respected for her extensive research in child adoption laws, which led to her government appointment. She is a sought after trainer for government stakeholders on women and child legislation, regularly conducting sessions at prestigious institutions including the Telangana Police Academy, District Legal Services Authority, CDTS, MCHRD Institute, SWATI, various national law schools, TCPS staffs, NGOs, and bar associations. Dr. Ramadevi is the author of the book Law and Procedure Relating to Inter-Country Adoption in India, published by Asia Law House, and has edited significant works in international law. Her research articles have appeared in UGC Care and Scopus Index journals, with one of her publications cited in the Delhi Judicial Academy Forest Officer Training Manual. Beyond her academic contribution, Dr. Ramadevi is a post consultant and external member of internal committees for various organizations and also serves as a member of the local complaint committee of Rangareddy district. She is frequently invited as a resource person on child and women's laws by reputed universities and national law schools across India, and also contributes as an external editor for peer-reviewed law journals and as an external member of the Board of Studies at Vaccine Law Schools. Now today, ma'am will share her expert insights on the topic of addressing drug abuse in children under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. So I invite please ma'am, Dr. Ramadevi Goodmela.
Thank you, Professor Sunil, for the introduction. First of all, respected panel members, respected principals of both the colleges, respected organizers, and all the participants in the conclave today, International Conclave, a very good afternoon to you all. Firstly, I wish to congratulate the organizers of this event, madam, because this is not some issue which we can only restrain or confine only to national level, but this is drug abuse or illicit trafficking is something which is a global problem or a global issue. So your thought on bringing about this kind of an event, both the principals of the law colleges, your thought to spread awareness on this day, it's really a wonderful thought which has come to you. And I really appreciate you for taking up this event at a national level and inviting so many speakers. And the previous speaker has shared her thought on how vulnerable the children are, especially the internationally displaced persons. So very well, Madam has highlighted the prior speaker on that aspect, and that is the need of the hour to understand how vulnerable the women and children in today's society are and how they are getting this lured into the drug abuse aspects. Right, so I'm really happy to be a part of this event, and I wish to take forth the presentation, madam. So if you just give me 2 minutes or 1 minute of time, I'll just present the presentation.
Sure. Yes. Yes, we are able to see the screen.
Okay, done. Thank you. So we have been observing in newspapers as well as in our daily in the social media as well as in the news channels that how the drug abuse problem is rampant and how the police department or the executive is so active in bursting out these drug trafficking rackets which are taking place at larger scale, not only limiting to my state of Telangana, but also the whole of India. And this racket is not only getting operated from one particular point, but it comes, the whole trafficking of the illicit drugs is rampantly taking place throughout the globe. and we all know that this is a billion-dollar industry just next to, human trafficking or arms trade, right? So this is one such area where there is a wide network, and to break this network or to go into that network, it is highly impossible for the executive also, because this is purely an organized crime. Illicit trafficking or the drug trafficking or the drug related mafia, or what we call it, is rampant, and it mostly goes in the underground. And to break or to actually know the roots of where it is starting, where it is ending, it is really difficult because it takes place in a very organized way. Okay, that is why this kind of illicit trafficking, we call it as one of the organized crime, right? We will just go into the other aspects also, and then we can understand how the trafficking aspect takes place, or why it is called as illicit trafficking. But I wish to concentrate mostly on the child rights perspective. And when, as a child rights stakeholder, when a child, whoever is coming or before the stakeholders, how the stakeholders rehabilitate the child who is into drug abuse, how the stakeholders take that up. That aspect I'm going to just share with you from my perspective, and also the laws that are there in India to protect the children from drug abuse and the rehabilitation part of these children who are involved into drug trafficking or drug abuse. Okay, so this is just the statistical data that I am presenting before you. So India, it has the highest youth population, and if we consider the street children in India, there are approximately more than 100 million. Okay, and these street children are much prone to enter into this drug abuse, or to, they are so vulnerable that they are pulled into the drug abuse aspect. And this data, whichever is given to us, that street children data, it has come from the UNICEF. Okay, so if you find in India any street child, they are in some way or the other exposed to some or the other drug. If you know that gutka, that is chewing of tobacco, that is very rampant in the age group of street children who are in the age group of 15 to 18 years. So you will find mostly that who are below 20 years of age, they are in some way or the other, out of the total drug abuse data that we have, the children's, if you see 13% of that particular whole of the data, whoever are into the drug abuse in India, including all genders, including all categories, all the ages, 13% of that particular data, you will find that most of the people who are into drug abuse are below the age of 20 years. Okay, so this is a UNODC official data which has been released, and you'll find it even on the platform. Other than that, if you see the Delhi Commission of Protection of Child Rights data, you will find that the average age group of children who are involved in the drug abuse, it is ranging from 12 years to 15 years. So this is really a thing to worry for the community here, as to how to deal with the problem of drug abuse, which is rampant among the youth population, young population. The young population who are mostly street children or who live in the slums, they are mostly vulnerable, and the traffickers use them for peddling the drug, or even use them for buying, and for, because they are very small, they don't even know what kind of packets they are carrying. They are just given a small packets, and they are asked to peddle from one particular place to other. So these kind of children are quite vulnerable, and they will be given 50 rupees, 100 rupees by the traffickers for just transferring of drug from one place to other. They are used as a peddlers because of their vulnerability, right? So this is something that is of a concern for the stakeholders who are there in the child protection ambit. And as one of the stakeholders, I wish to share with you some live cases also, what we come across in respect of this drug abuse issue, especially in children. Okay. So very recently, not recently, last year, I can say that the issue of drug abuse has come up before the Supreme Court, and Justice Nagaratna, she said that the drug abuse is not considered to be cool. And she has clearly stated it that not only the children in slums or those who are from the poverty background, not only these children, but if you see the children who are studying in good schools, they are also getting addicted to some or the other kind of drug abuse. Now, what is this? When we interact as a child protection stakeholders with some children who are prone to this drug abuse, they clearly say that it's a peer pressure for them, right? If they are not taking the peer pressure, they are saying that you are just a small kid, oh, you are not at all cool, so you don't consume alcohol. Oh, you are not at all cool if you don't come and consume alcohol with us. Hardly 16, 17 years children. Okay, so this was highlighted by Supreme Court, and the Justice Nagaratna, she mentioned that drug abuse cannot be considered as something cool. So it is the responsibility of parents and the community to spread awareness and tell the youth or the young population that drug abuse should not be considered as something cool, and this drug abuse in the youth is eroding the shine of the nation, because today's youth is going to be the tomorrow's future of the society. And if that particular aspect of regulating the drug abuse in children is not done by the state, it is going to create the underdevelopment in the whole nation. So this point is highlighted by the Supreme Court in the year 2024, where Justice Nagaratna has stressed on stating that drug abuse should not be considered as cool, and it is purely the responsibility of parents also and the community to make it clear to their children that you should not be involved in some or the other kind of drug abuse. Okay, so many instances we have seen many film stars or movie stars' sons or even the movie stars were arrested because they were involved in some or the other kind of drug-related abuse that was taking place, right? And I have clearly stated that next to human trafficking, next to armed trade, the drug trade or illicit drug trade is rampant, and it is the trade which is carrying out at the underground level, and that is the organized crime, what we call as. Okay, so it takes place in such a way that bursting of just one racket does not burst the whole of that particular chain, because it is very tough for the authorities also to burst the drug rackets, and it is going on worldwide. It's a global problem which needs to be addressed, and there are, as stated by the previous speakers, UNODC or other international organizations are working in this direction to erode or to completely remove the or to stop the particular drug abuse or illicit trafficking that is going on rampantly. Now, what are the causes of drug abuse in children? We find that it is due to peer pressure primarily, that we see that most of the children, out of excitement or out of some kind of adventure they feel, for if they are smoking cigarette, or if they are involved into consuming of alcohol or chewing tobacco or even consuming ganja, charas. So these kind of things make them look cool. Nowadays, the present generation, they are thinking that if we don't involve or if we don't participate in these kind of activities, they are not considered to be cool in their particular peer group, and they are bullied. So fearing the peer group pressure, most of the children are themselves getting into the some or the other kind of drug abuse. Very recently, if you go through the newspapers, you will find that a new drug is introduced, which is love drug, which is called as a love drug. So what will happen if someone is consuming this kind of a drug? Once the love drug is, if someone is consuming this drug, they will be more empathetic. They will start loving everyone. They will feel the love in the air. So this is what is being claimed by those who are taking the love drug. So not only this, But why I'm mentioning the parental responsibility on not only the community. Previous speakers have clearly stated community responsibility should be there in order to protect these children, protect the vulnerable groups. Yes, other than community, but also the parents, it is their responsibility equally to keep checking the bags of the children after they come from the school, or keep talking to children, observe the trends in the children. Those who are addicted to drug abuse, their behavior becomes very aggressive. They always look out for money, they steal the money, they go to even that extent. So there are some traits which the parents need to keep observing the children. Nowadays, even though the parents are observing, some parents who have come before the authorities, they have stakeholders. They state that we don't even understand whether it is something relating to school or is it a drug, because there is a drug which is in the form of small paper. If you see small LSD, it is a small paper. Just by, if that small paper is very colorful, it looks like a small stamp. So parents are also unaware that whether it is a drug or whether it is something eatable which the child has. So this kind of awareness should be regularly spread in the schools also, that how the parents should recognize whether the child is got addicted to some drug or no. So this is what I wish to state. So parental responsibility plays a primary role, and the parent should stress saying that consuming drugs is also not cool, and consuming of alcohol or whatsoever is not considered to be cool, and it is going to affect their psychology and also the physiological balance, the psychological balance, and also there will be legal complications if the children are caught with some kind of drug in their possession. So this is what the parents' responsibility is imposed upon, to continuously check and keep an eye on their children, whether they are into drug abuse or no. Okay, and then what causes these children to be a part of, or to enter into the abuse by consuming the illicit drugs? So there can be neglect. So most of the children who come before the child protection stakeholders are neglected children, or street found children who roam on the streets, or who are doing nothing on the streets, but they work for small jobs, and they sit and they consume the drugs. So no one is there to take care or guide them. So these kind of neglected children are no doubt considered to be child in need of care and protection, and there is an act to take care of these children in India, that is Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, which exclusively deals with children in need of care and protection, and also the children in conflict with law. So these kind of children who are found to be neglected or abandoned on the streets, the law is there to protect these children, and these children are highly vulnerable to be tapped by the traffickers and induce them into some or the other kind of drug abuse or drug trafficking. Then coming to lack of awareness, poor social economic conditions. Obviously, the children who are tapped by the traffickers are mostly vulnerable, and who are found in the slum area or in the area where the children are from poor backgrounds, or the backgrounds where they actually need some money. Okay, so these kind of children are tapped by the traffickers and are induced into drug trafficking or drug abuse. Now, what is the impact? As I have stated, I need not much go into in depth as to what would be the impact on the child once they are addicted to some or the other kinds of drugs. So there are different kinds of drugs in the market relating to nicotine products or relating to psychotropic substances. So nicotine products, we all know that whichever are produced in the from the ground, or earthly products, like poppy plants, cannabis, all this. Psychotropic substances are extracted version of the drug, okay, which causes the consumer to lose mental balance and also the physical balance. So they hallucinate, and some children who appear before us and for whom we provide shelter, they display the aggressive behavior because they are not given access to any kind of drug. So they display a high kind of aggressive behavior which needs to be controlled in them. And they lose their education, they lose the appetite for eating also. They cannot even eat food properly. So these kind of children do come, whoever are addicted or dragged into the drug abuse or drug consumption, they face many problems, not only relating to physiology and psychology or mental related ailments, but also they are mostly getting into legal conflicts, or the what do we say, they are getting they are committing crimes. Okay, some or the other crimes they are committing in that hallucination mode, or because they are very high on that particular drug, they are involving themselves as some kind of offense, they are going and committing it. So they are involving themselves into various legal hassles. Children, I'm talking only about children. Okay, so they develop a criminal behavior, and they always, most of them do turn out to be the children in conflict with law. Okay, so these kind of drug abuse impacts the children and their career, or the growth, the development hampers because of these kind of exploitation the child is going through. Now, what are the various legislations, or we need to understand the legal framework first in India. So first law that is there is Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. In short, we call it as NDPS Act of 1985. The other legislation which takes care of CNCP children, as I have stated, is Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015. Then we also have certain provisions in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, a newly added section, that is section 95. It talks about the criminalizing a person, whoever is hiring, employing, or engaging a child to commit an offense. So this particular section 95 is a newly added section under the new law, that is BNS 2023, which focuses on if someone is involving a child to commit any offense, that person will be made liable for a punishment which is not less than 3 years and which can extend to 10 years and fine. So one such provision where the children who are used in drug peddling, or the drug transferring or harboring of illicit drug from one place to other, they can also be brought, that particular traffickers can be brought and punished under section 95 of BNS. Other than that, if you look at some of the provisions which are there to protect the children under JJ Act of 2015 is section 77, which talks about the penalty that is imposed on the person for giving liquor or intoxicating a child with some narcotic drug or some psychotropic substance. This is a wonderful provision where the trafficker or anyone who is intoxicating a child or who is luring a child to consume a drug, that person can be made liable under section 77. Section 78, if you look at, if anyone is using a child for vending, peddling, carrying, supplying, or smuggling an intoxicating liquor, narcotic substance, or psychotropic substance, even they are made punishable under section 78. So what is the punishment? If you see that the punishment will extend to 7 years, and the fine also will be extended to 1 lakh. So this is a huge penalty on that particular person. So mostly these two sections are wonderful sections in order to protect the children from falling into the drug abuse or falling into the hands of a trafficker who is exploiting their vulnerability. Then we need to look at the little bit about the NDPS Act. I'm not going much into in depth of this NDPS Act, and you will find that in the NDPS Act there is a division. Okay, so commercial use, how much quantity is considered of a narcotic substance or psychotropic substance, how much quantity of these drugs are considered to be commercial use, and what is that quantity which is considered to be small quantity. Okay, so especially you find small quantities in school children's. They just carry 1 or 2 LSGs and they put it on their tongue. That will actually hallucinate them. LSGs look like a small stamp paper, as I have stated earlier. They are very small. One LSG initially the traffickers will lure them and they give them away for only 200 or 300. But later on, once the child got addicted to these kind of drug, then the rate will be increased by the traffickers. So that is why what we suggest is that the schools where the children are studying should be very vigilant as to who is standing outside of the school after the school hours and interacting with the child on regular basis. So there is a possibility that these people are the traffickers or the drug peddlers. Okay, so the NDPS Act clearly states that the quantity, the possession of illicit drugs, be it narcotic substance or psychotropic substances, how much of the quantity is considered to be a small quantity, how much of the quantity is considered to be the commercial quantity. When the quantity is of commercial quantity range, then the person who is in possession of these kind of narcotic substances or psychotropic substances in the commercial quantity, the punishment differs. It becomes a non-bailable offense, and the punishment is more in case of the person who is possessing the commercial quantity, whereas the persons who are possessing the small quantity, that is approximately small, the quantities are mentioned for different drug in the NDPS Act. If they are possessing smaller quantities, the punishment that is a it will become a bailable offense, and the punishment will range hardly from 6 months to 1 year. It depends on what kind of drug also the person has in his possession. So these kind of, and so the NDPS Act purely defines also the different kinds of drugs as to what is the meaning of narcotic drug or what is considered to be psychotropic substances, and who are and how the drugs should be regulated, and what are the various punishments for possessing the drug or harboring the drug or manufacturing the drug. If you see charas or ganja, these are manufactured. Okay, manufactured in the sense they are raised as a crops, poppy crops, cannabis. So these are crops which are cultivated. So even cultivation of such crops is considered to be illegal, and there is a punishment under NDPS Act. You will find it in the Act. So this is what is about the NDPS Act. And now coming to the main act where the children, how they are rehabilitated. Okay, once the child is found as a vulnerable child and the child is recognized as a child in need of care and protection by the concerned authorities under the JJ Act, the child, how the rehabilitation takes place, or what is the rehabilitation aspect of that child. If you look at Section 2, Clause 14 of the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act, you will find that Section 2, Clause 14 has 12 categories of children who are considered to be child in need of care and protection. In that 12 categories, one of the category is the children who are involved with substance abuse, or the children who are at a risk of even the substance abuse or drug abuse. So these kind of children, when they are produced before the concerned rehabilitation body, then what is the next process of rehabilitation? I'll just take you through that. But this 2 Clause 14 is a section which considers the children who are into drug abuse or who are vulnerable to drug abuse to be considered as children in need of care and protection. So the JJ Act is no doubt protecting these kind of vulnerable children, and their rehabilitation is also possible by the stakeholders involved in the process. Then talking about Section 39 of the JJ Act, it focuses on the rehabilitation and social integration of that particular child who is considered as a CNCP. Section 53, if you look at how the rehabilitation mechanism is done. It can't be just done by looking at the child. Okay, this child needs so and so. Okay, fine, let the child be into so and so. No, there is a proper procedure as to how the assessment or the developmental steps are to be taken with respect to a child in need of care and protection. Which is the tool that the authorities use? That is nothing but individual care plan that I will share, that I will talk in the next slide, as to how the assessment of that particular child who is found in the drug abuse is done. That we will see in the later slide. Then coming to section 50 to 54, it talks about the placement of the child who is found to be vulnerable to drug abuse, how the rehabilitation is done, what is the role of the child care institutions. Earlier, the child care institutions were known as orphan homes, but now they are known as CCIs, okay, under JJ Act. The terminology is changed. So not all CNCP children are orphans. Orphan is only one category of CNCP child. So there are different kinds of CNCPs, and that is why the name orphan home is removed now, and in that place we have CCI, child care institutions, and how these children are rehabilitated, that we will be just looking in the just go. I'll be taking you through that. And one of the primary body which deals with the children when they are produced before the concerned authority. Who is that authority? It is Child Welfare Committee. So the child is rescued by the police or by the child helpline and the district child protection units, and the child is produced before the quasi-judicial body of a district, that is Child Welfare Committee. And I am a member of my one particular district in state of Telangana, which is Rangareddy district. And when the child is produced before the CWCs, they step into the shoes of a guardian of a child, and the CWCs basically look into how the body or how the child can be further rehabilitated. Okay, if a child is found in a condition of drug abuse or vulnerable to any kind of drug trafficking or drug abuse related exploitation, then what should be the procedure that CWC shall be following with respect to that child, and how the rehabilitation of such a child should be done. So this role of a CWC or Child Welfare Committee plays a very important role in observing the milestones or observing the growth pattern of the child and suggesting the better remedies for overall rehabilitation of a child. That is very important. Now, once the child is observed, rescued by the stakeholders, child protection stakeholders, the child is produced before the CWC, and the CWC immediately considers this kind of children who are into drug abuse as CNCPs, children in need of care and protection. And then the next process that will be done by the CWC will be to provide shelter to the child. That shelter where the CWC will be providing, we will be providing the shelter to the child in the child care institutions, that is orphan homes. But now the terminology is changed. We should call these homes which provide shelter and rehabilitate the child is CCIs. So there are certain CCIs in place which actually tackle or deal with the children who are aggressive who are subjected to these kind of abuse, different kinds of abuse, not only drug abuse but even different kinds of abuse. So suddenly if a child is brought from a street, he doesn't have a primary education also. So rehabilitation does not only mean that the child should be continuing his education immediately. Take the time for the child to settle first, to come out of that kind of abusive or exploitative environment. And once the child is brought out from that, he'll be put into vocational courses. There'll be bridge courses where the child will be trained with minimum writing skills, reading skills, and all that. And only after looking at the development of the child, the next step of rehabilitation will be possible, especially with children who are coming from abusive backgrounds. So one such abusive background is drug abuse or exploitation by forcefully involving the child in these kind of environments, like trafficking of drug and all. Then CWCs also monitor the treatment regularly with respect to the rehabilitation, as I have stated. And how do we monitor the rehabilitation of a children is through individual care plan. So there is a form under JJ Act, and that form is Form 7, which we call it as individual care plan of a child. So how does that, what does that form consist of? As soon as the child is brought before the CWC, CWC places the child in that particular CCI, which is able to take care of these kind of children. Okay, and now when the child is placed in that home or CCI, the CCI will start observing the child. Okay, the CCI in charge and the home mother or home father, whoever will be the in charge of the CCI, they'll be observing the child, and they will write as to how the child's behavior is initially when the child came into that particular CCI. Okay, if the child is displaying the aggressive behavior, or if the child is displaying some behavior which is where the child gets secluded from his or herself and doesn't talk to anyone, he is in his own world, he is always sleeping. So there'll be many psychological traits that CCI in charges will observe. And to bring the child out of that, what are the interventions that are necessary to be done towards this child? That intervention will be taken up by the CCI, and then for after 1 month, what is the response from the child? The child was always sleeping, or the child was secluding itself from all others. What is the intervention that is done by the CCI? The child is made to participate in various sports activities, or the child is given more importance, appreciation for whatever small thing he is doing. So the interventions are done by the home in charges and the staff there. And finally, after 1 month, what is the behavior of the child? So this kind of trait is done every month. And not only every month, after certain days, it will go gradually to 3 months once the ICP will be done for the child. And then once the child is settled and he is able to take care of himself and he's out of the trauma and all, then after 6 months, for every 6 months, the ICP will be done for the child. And the ICP will be presented before the CWC. And what is the next course of action, that will be decided by the CWC with respect to that particular child. Now, I want to highlight one more thing here, that when the children who are involved into drug abuse or drug consumption, they come before us. Most of the children who are in the age group of approximately 14, 15, or 16, 14, 15 years, 12 to 14, 15 years, once we place them in a CCI, which is able to take care of them, they get rehabilitated gradually. There is no problem with these kind of children. But what happens when the child is too much addicted? And some shivering is developed if the CCIs don't offer them with any kind of rehabilitation from the perspective of de-addiction centers. Okay, they only rehabilitate through counseling, through communicating, and by placing the child in sports, or by giving certain education to the child. CCIs can only do to this extent. But when it comes to de-addiction centers role, it is different. And de-addiction centers are not under Women and Child Department or the JJ Act, but they are purely exclusive to the health departments. So de-addiction centers we have in state of Telangana, and not only in Telangana, in all over India, we have de-addiction centers in the government or the state-run hospitals. So when the child is displaying, once we place the child in CCIs, if the child is displaying too much of shivering or withdrawal symptoms, or some kind of too aggressive behavior, by they go to the extent of even committing suicide, self-harm behaviors. So these kind of behaviors, when it is observed by the authorities, CWCs, and the home in charges through ICP, by recording it in the ICP of a child, then the CWC will refer such children to the FIT facilities, which are de-addiction centers in the government hospitals. In few states of India, we find that there are de-addiction centers for these kind of children established by the state, especially to deal with the children who are into drug abuse. Very few we have. This is one of the challenge. But most of the time it so happens that whenever a child is going through these kind of symptoms, after the placement of a child in a CCI, the child will be shifted from CCI to the FIT facility, that is the government run or the state run hospitals where de-addiction centers are specifically there to take care of these kind of people. So what are the various departments that we coordinate, or the CWCs coordinate when the child is involved into drug abuse? Not only the police department, not only the women and child department, health departments, we do coordinate with various kinds of NGOs for the rehabilitation purpose of the child. Most of the NGOs are also there, which provide not exactly de-addiction, but yes, even de-addiction centers. Not only that, but also they provide counseling, they provide how to come out of the withdrawal symptom, engaging the children in various activities. So these kind of NGOs we tie up with, and the child is rehabilitated in that perspective. And coming to certain cases, as this case I have already discussed, when a 14 years old boy, he is addicted into inhalants. Inhalants, you know that they are directly intaken through or injectables. So these kind of children also do come before us, and what is the procedure? I have just told you that CWC will consider the child and first try to place the child in a CCI and observe the developmental prospects of the child. And then whether we should recommend for a FIT facility or no, that will be considered purely on the behavior or the psychological state of that particular child. Now, there is another thing also as to what the JJB would do. See, if the child is found to have a psychotropic substance, or he is found peddling, he is 16 years old and he knows the nature of the act as to what he is doing. He is carrying a psychotropic substance or narcotic substance, and he's caught with commercial quantity. Then no doubt the police will be registering an FIR and the child will be produced before the JJB. And now, once the child is booked under the NDPS Act, then what is the procedure that is followed by the JJB? It is usually the procedure which is followed for every offender. Okay, but at times it so happens that the children who are found with small quantity of drugs, and these children, due to the vulnerable conditions, they are found to be, or to have the possession of these kind of drugs. Then the JJB usually transfers the matter to CWC for considering that particular child who is in conflict with law to be treated as a CNCP child, because he needs a thorough rehabilitation. The purpose of JJB is to rehabilitate the child who is found in conflict with law, but at times JJB has the power to consider the child to be a CNCP rather than considering the child as a CCL, because there is a difference when the child is considered as a CNCP, or when the child is considered as a CCL. Okay, CNCP, overall rehabilitation is what is looked into, and complete rehabilitation is what is looked into. Whereas JJB, as soon as the child comes, it is the right of the child to go to take a bail, and there is every possibility that the child can again go into some circumstances where he is again vulnerable and he is put in the same place. There is a possibility, but the JJB bail conditions, one of the bail conditions of JJB to grant bail under Section 12 of JJ Act is if there is a chance that the child will be put, if the child is released on a bail, will be again put in the same circumstances, which will make him more vulnerable, then also the bail will be denied by the JJB. But that is usually for the offenders who are above 17 years or who are possessing the commercial quantity and they very well know the nature of the act. But what about the small children, 12 years old boy, if he is also produced at times before the JJB? So what would the JJB do? Instead of considering him as a CCL, rather there is a need for the child to be rehabilitated, and there is a scope also. He is hardly 12 years, so there is a scope for a further rehabilitation, and he is found to be on streets and no one to take care of. Then the JJB will consider the matter and post it before the CNCP. Shaista ma'am, I think am I going with the time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No issues.
Okay, just a few minutes, I'll conclude.
Sure.
Then what are the challenges in the implementation? This challenges in the implementation, one challenge that a stakeholder faces is we don't have a specific dedicated home for de-addiction of these children who are found to be in drug abuse or who are exploited and who are vulnerable to these drug traffickers. So that is one hindrance that we have. As a fit facility, we should transfer the child to government hospitals, and lack of manpower. When the child is in a hospital for de-addiction, it's a continuous process. So manpower is a shortage there. And the coordination between the departments, like CWC here in Telangana, we are a part of Women and Child Department. We need to coordinate with the health department. So that coordination at times it becomes difficult due to various issues in place. Okay, so that is one hindrance or challenge that we face usually in rehabilitation of the children who are addicted to drugs or who are involved in themselves in the drug abuse process. And we have very few staff who are trained to handle these kind of children. Not all are trained to handle these kind of children. Even the CCIs, which are there in place, they can handle a normal child, normal CNCP child who is found as a child labor, who is found in as abandoned child, who is orphan child. Normal child they are able to handle. But when the children who are abused to some or the other drugs, the way they display their behavior, how the CCI should control their behavior, or how these children should be handled, this particular training is not available to majority of the stakeholders, and we face this problem in today's time, that there are no many CCIs to handle these kind of children, neither there are trained staff. And so this is lastly concluding the session that drug abuse among the children, it is something which every one of us should be attending to. And if as a law college, there are various participants who are from different law colleges, as one of your legal aid club activity, it is better that you go into some kind of vulnerable areas like some slums or areas where there are more number of street children you find. And I request all of them, all the teachers who are in law education, to spread this kind of awareness through your students to the community. So this would be a real help to them as to how the drug traffickers will trap them, what would happen if the child is induced into taking of drugs. This is very important to spread awareness. So this is one such area where we as a people, or we as a part of the society, should contribute ourselves in spreading more awareness about the drug abuse issue, especially among the children. And yes, JJ Act, no doubt it has a wide procedure, as I have stated, as to how the rehabilitation of the child will be taken care by the authorities. And it is a lengthy process. It is not a one-time process, but it is a continuous process with respect to such children. And lastly, not only me, but also all the prior speakers have continuously pointed out that community service or community approach is very important here, and community interventions are important here. So we all, as part of the community, we should be doing our duty in spreading more awareness about how this drug abuse can be curtailed and how the children or the tomorrow's future can be protected from getting involved into drug abuse or drug trafficking. So thank you all for patiently listening to me, and thank you, Shahista Madam, for inviting me and to be a part of this event and making me a part of this international conclave. Thank you so much. Thank you, organizers, for
Most
this
welcome, ma'am.
wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
It was a great pleasure for us, ma'am, to have you on this international global conclave. Really a pleasure to have that you were representing our nation. And we are very, very happy and fortunate to have you here. So now I request everyone to all the panel members to please on their video so that we can have the honor with Dr. Rama Devi, ma'am, and we can have a group photograph, please. Kindly pin Dr. Rama Devi, ma'am, also, and all the panel members, please.
Ganesh, photo here.
I request technical team to take all the members together.
Okay. Huh?
Are we able to do it? All the panel members? Yes, thank you. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move to final technical session of this international global conclave. It is my pleasure to invite my colleague, Professor Akshay Mahamuni, sir, to introduce final technical speaker of today's conclave, Advocate Shirin Sayed, sir, from USA.
Good afternoon to all. Myself, Advocate Akshay Mahamuni from SSRA Law College, Bid. It is now my pleasure to invite our final technical speaker for today's conclave, Advocate Shirin Sayed, Madam, from USA. Advocate Shirin Sayed, Madam, is a seasoned legal professional and an international recognized expert in intellectual property, healthcare, international trade, artificial intelligence, and technology governance. She holds a designated academic background from the American University, Washington College of Law, and is known for his impactful policy work and thought leadership in the global access to medicine and human rights space. Today's madam will be sharing her insights on the very crucial topic global IP regimes denial access to essential medicine, drug abuse, and health inequities and human rights violations. Ma'am, we are honored to have you with us. The virtual stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes,
Audible
ma'am.
as well?
You are audible.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And it is really so intellectually enriching to have the presentations since morning, since the first technical session from Nigeria and the second one from India, and now also the final technical session. I know this is something, might be some of you might be tired and might be hungry as well, but I think so I will be able to keep up with my presentation, which is a short story to keep you engaged and interested, and might not be thinking of lunch before that. And let me share my slides so I can start with that. Just give me a minute to share my slide.
If you're not able to share, you can share it with us so that we can share from here. No issues.
Okay. Is it visible on the screen or not? I'm trying to share. Just let me try.
It's visible, ma'am, now.
Okay. I think the whole screen is visible. Okay. Is it okay? Is it good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, so the topic today for my presentation is global IP regimes, that is denial for access to essential medicines, health inequity, and human rights violation. Before starting this talking on this topic, I would like to talk a bit more about myself and work. So, although I'm representing United States, but my roots are from India, and I have moved from India to the US to work in access to medicines issues. And I would like to give you some background how I landed up here and in the US, as well as how I landed up still working for India for my roots. That is, and for my passion to work into is right to medicines, right to affordable healthcare. So I moved to the US to do my second master's degree in intellectual property and technology. And my main thesis of my course was based on access to medicines and also international copyright law. So basically, my area of work is intellectual property. And also, back in India, I was a lawyer, an activist, as well as a law teacher for more than a decade in Maharashtra, as well as I have completed my PhD in intellectual property and constitution. And after landing up in the US to work to finish my second master's degree, I ended up working with some of the major policy think tanks based in Washington, D.C. And it was really a great privilege to work on such a global level platform. And to say that it was more of a privilege to work for India, for our country, sitting there in USA and talking about the issues what we face in India and how it actually impacts on a global landscape. That is something is very interesting and very professionally and personally satisfying for me to work and to bring up the issues what we face in India on a global platform. And this is how I am here, and I would like to mention about exactly uh, what was the institution I'm working with is that is Knowledge Ecology International. It's a prominent think tank based in Washington, D.C. And here we were, it's a broad based organization working on various issues. And one of the issues what they work on is access to medicines. And on this access to medicines, I have the privilege of working with India chapter, and I bring about all the issues what regarding access to medicines what in India we face, and bring it on the global platform and take it at the international platform, and such as the WHO, the World Health Organization. We have also sent some proposal in which I help and assisted in drafting some proposals to the WHO, the World Health Organization, regarding affordability issues from India. And we also conducted some surveys and interviews to the patients who are in need for that. We also conducted some specific case studies, sometimes directly through the organization, and sometimes also I worked, collaborated personally with some people to work with them to gain access to medicines. So in my presentation today, what I'm trying to do is to explain the issue of access to medicines through a case study, an interesting story of a young girl. Before that, I would like to say that although the broader theme of your webinar is child trafficking, drug abuse, and also child rights. So my presentation is bit more focused on the child rights, and that is something I'm trying to bring my focus on the child right as right to health and how children are affected in that. And that's why I have brought this specific case study in which I would like to show how the children are affected without medicines which they don't have access. So, and I'm pleased to bring a topic which is a bit different, because it is wonderful to see wonderful presentation of child trafficking and drug abuse in our presentations with wonderful speakers from Nigeria and India, bringing up substantial issues regarding child trafficking and drug abuse. So this is something, my topic is related to child rights. So let's go back to the first next slide, in which you could see there is a girl called as Seba Salam, and she's 24 years old, residing in Kerala, India. And you could see her that she is a young, cheerful girl, full of enthusiasm and hope. And it looks like every other girl, a young girl who is of her age would be like that. But here I would like to mention something more special about her. She is bedridden since 2017, and she is suffering from a rare disease called as spinal muscular atrophy, in short, SMA. So, and Seba has been bedridden since undergoing tracheostomy, a procedure in which an opening is created in the front of the neck so a tube can be inserted into the windpipe to facilitate breathing. And in 2017, she has difficulty in sitting and swallowing due to this help. And also in 2020, unfortunately, she also contacted COVID-19. And this is something is what she has faced the biggest challenge in her whole uh, journey of struggle. And she said that the most disgusting aspect of my current struggle is that each time I almost kind of recover from a setback, another terrible trouble arises from somewhere around to storm me again. This was her statement. And exactly what is her case and what happened to her and why we are talking about this, that you will be knowing in the next slide. She needs a drug, a medicine for her case, that is SMA. She needs a drug called as Eversd. That is the generic name is Risdiplam. And that is made by an international multinational pharmaceutical company called as Roche. And it is an oral medication used to treat the SMA for which Seba is suffering from. Now, what's the catch in this? Look at the price. The current price of a bottle of Roche's Everest in India is rupees 6.2 lakh. Can you imagine the price of a bottle which costs this much? And this is the something she is requiring the medicine, the bottle, each bottle every month. And this is something she has to take it for the whole year. For example, it costs around 74.4 lakh for her dosages. Just see the number of price. Is it something is affordable to anyone? Even the upper middle class family in India cannot afford this. And this is something is a long time treatment for her. And this is like, she has to take this medicine for years. So calculating together 74.4, almost 75 lakh rupees per year just for a single medicine is something unimaginable for most of the people in India and unaffordable as well. And talking about SMA, what is SMA? how it goes. It is something is termed as a rare disease, but still it is something is very frequent or very common in India because of the higher population density. You see, it affects 15,000 newborns each year globally. Most will die before the age of 2 if untreated. But in India, since we have highest population in the country and the highest birth rate in the world and highest population in the world, sorry, not in the country, the patient number of patients are multiplied. On record, at least there are more than 5,000 patients are there in India on record, although not everyone is having a proper diagnosis of this disease and not everyone is put on record, but there is an organization in which uh, patients of SMA are coming together and registering themselves to at least get some number to get an idea how many patients are there who are suffering from SMA. So on record, I think it is more than 5,000 plus, but it is the number is quite huge. And you could see the price of the drug. And you could see that in the last bullet of the slide that only 145 bottles of the drug were sold in India in 2021 on record. That is something, a fraction of the need. Because as the number, as I have told, that the number of patients are more than 5,000, maybe 20,000 plus. That is the estimate, as we don't have exact record. That's why we are just considering for this time as 5,000. But see the sale of the drug, only 145 bottles. Why? Since everyone needs this medicine, why only 145 bottles are sold? I think the answer is quite easy, because of the price. The price is simply unaffordable, unimaginable for most of the people. Now, after this, what do you think is like, what is the reason for this much of price? Okay, why it is so expensive? Even you could see the picture of the medicine here. There is nothing special. There is nothing, what you can say is extraordinary in the look and packing. We come across every other medicine in this similar way, but look at the price. The look is ordinary, but the price is extraordinary, right? And why it is so? Because of a patent monopoly. And this is what, and that is not a rare exception. This is a systemic issue. And what does it mean? I'll explain you in the next slide. The intellectual property barrier. That is the biggest reason for that. So the patent monopoly is a legal monopoly given by law. For 20 years, the drug will be made only by the patent holder. In this case, the drug will be given, the right of making medicine will be only with only one manufacturer, exclusive rights. And the manufacturer is free to charge anything. And this is something what we call as monopoly, which is illegal per se, but that has been made legalized under the intellectual property law under the name of patents. Then that is the issue, which is such kind of monopoly and unimaginable prices, making the drug unaffordable and something creating a big problem. And this is something, what I am trying to state is that intellectual property laws were designed not for public health, but for protecting private commercial interests. That is something very clear. Giving a monopoly to something is not for the people, it is for the business. And this is what intellectual property laws have encouraged. They have encouraged business, but they have ignored social welfare, they have ignored public health, they have ignored human rights. Also, you can say to be specific, they have ignored child rights, as in this case of risdiplam, as in this case of SMA, in which most of the sufferers are children. Sometimes they are by birth, they are suffering from SMA and not able to get this drug is a clear violation of right to health, right to life. And before that, I would like to mention about, as we are going with this the case study of Seba, look at her legal battle. And this is a timeline. On 26th of March 2023, the neurology head of Government Medical College, Ernakulam, recommends the risdiplam for SEBA. And on the 20th of December 2023, she filed through actually some of the activists organization for which even I was a part of it. She filed a writ petition before Kerala High Court seeking government action for affordable access to risdiplam. And she contended that actually she contended in Article 21 that there is a right to life, right to health for everyone, and she is getting denied because she has no money. And there is no law or there any rule in the Indian Constitution as well as anywhere in the world where someone is supposed to die just because they don't have money. And this is something highly violative of human rights, highly violative of right to life. So that was her main contention in the petition. And on 4th of Jan, court hears initial petition and the Kerala government says free SMA drugs only for children below 8. And court notes that need for central government intervention. So here, as she was 24 years old, she was found ineligible to get this medication. As I already mentioned earlier, that this mainly under in newborns, in infants. But there is a certain type of SMA which also affects individuals after they cross the age of 20. And that all what happened with Seba. She started getting symptoms and she started losing her energy, her physical activity after the age of 20. And by 20, she was completely bedridden. And this is something the court has given. The Kerala government said that the drugs are free for SMA for only the children who are below 8. Then what happened next? On 2nd February 2024, Ernakulam Medical College completes SEBA's medical evaluation. Court directs reports to be sent to the Center of Excellence in Thiruvananthapuram. And here there was a complete examination was done by the medical college on the directions of the court. And then on 14th of Feb 2024, the court records that Center of Excellence received SEBA's records and must forward them to Rare Disease Cell, Ministry of Health. And this is something in which the rare disease cell set up by Ministry of Health at the central government gives away some amount of compensation to the patients who are suffering from rare diseases, as there is a specific classification called as rare disease, and SMA falls under that classification. And that's why we as a team asked SEBA to approach to the rare disease cell of Ministry of Health. So the next development, 23rd February 2024, court direct the Union of India to release a minimum of 50 lakh rupees under the National Rare Disease Policy within 2 weeks. And this was a great victory and something a very great breakthrough in which such a big amount of 50 lakh rupees has been released by the government for a treatment. And this is something was very much in the news everywhere, and it was something big achievement for her, Seba personally, to get some medicine at this point, because something imagining collecting 50 lakhs or arranging for 50 lakhs from her or her family was not actually possible. So this is something getting from the government for 50 lakh rupees as a help. It was a big actually say big victory. And then she started her treatment. But here what we need to think at this point, is everyone capable to approach to the court? Is the court is going to distribute 50 lakh rupees? Who is coming to the court and asking for help like this? At some point of time, the government will not be doing this. Why? Because it is simply not feasible to give 50 lakh rupees to every patient. As I have already mentioned, there are more than 5,000 patients on record. And for example, even if we take them, all of them to the court, or even 500 of them go to the court will not be in a position to distribute 50 lakh rupees to each and every patient. And that is the issue. So what should be done in this case? That's a big question. And I think the simplest answer for this is make the medicine cheaper, make the medicine affordable. That is the most logical solution to this problem. Instead of giving a big amount of money, releasing big amount of funds from the government to each and every patient. And why I'm saying this? Because of this slide, you can see that the incidence of disease, it affects 15,000 newborns each year. And this drug is something is patented and unaffordable in most low and middle income countries. And as I already mentioned in earlier slide, only 45 bottles were sold. There are similar drugs which also work for this disease, the SMA. But look at the price. Zolgensma, that is worth 16 crore rupees for a single bottle. There is another drug called as Spiranza that costs 7 lakh rupees. It means that even that is something which is not reachable. So first of all, there are hardly any options available because all these drugs, risdiplam, Zolgensma, and Speranza, they are specific to a specific type of SMA. So, for example, if a child or a patient is suffering from type 1 SMA, the drug that is Speranza, which you can see is somewhat less affordable, somewhat less expensive compared to the other one, but it will not work on that type. So it is very much type specific. So there is no option for a patient who is suffering from type 1 SMA to ignore risdiplam. The only option for the patient is that either you have to get risdiplam by spending so much of money, or just die without treatment, and which is something is against human rights. Especially children from poor families from global south are condemned to die. And this is something is a clear violation of child rights. And what is the legal gaps? What is the problem? Problem is the patent laws in India are allowing this kind of monopolies. But there are some provisions which has some way between, in which there are possibilities that some patients can get these medicines at an affordable price. How it is? Compulsory licensing and government use. This is under section 83, 84, 92, 100 and section 100 of Indian Patent Act, in which there is a provision that if the medicine is very much unaffordable, the government can ask the manufacturer to give away the rights to someone else who is making it cheap. For example, explaining through an example is that, for example, if there is a manufacturer A who is making the drug for the price of 70 lakh rupees, and there is something for him as a manufacturer B who has approached and asked, okay, I can make this drug for 5,000 rupees instead of 70 lakh rupees. And if that is kind of proposal is coming to the government can grant licensing to the manufacturer who is ready to manufacture for cheaper price, and that the government can give the license, and that is called as compulsory license, in which the holder of the patent cannot object, cannot prevent from to the government to do that. Although the manufacturer will be having a patent, a legal monopoly, in which it will not allow anyone to manufacture the drug, but the government hold the right to compulsorily give the right to another manufacturer who is ready to make it for cheap use, for a cheaper price, which can be affordable. And this has happened in certain cases, like there was a cancer drug for kidney cancer, in which the government has issued compulsory license. Then there is another provision under section 100 of the Indian Patent Act that is called as government use provision, in which the government can take up the right from the patent holder if the patent holder is charging exorbitant prices, just like the case of risdiplam. They can order other manufacturers to make it and sell to the government, and the government can disburse it through its own healthcare system. For example, in this case of Seba, when the court was asked, has the obligation to pay 50 lakh rupees for buying risdiplam, the another way is that make risdiplam cheaper. The government can ask other manufacturers to make it and give it to the government, and then government can supply cheaper through its government hospitals and civil hospital mechanism. And it is something is very much doable under the Section 100 of the Indian Patent Act. But if this is the solution, what I am stating, then what is the problem? The problem is that these sections are never been used, hardly been used. Section 100, that is government use provision, has never been used ever, although it is such an effective provision in which issues like unaffordability, such as the case of SEBA, not able to buy 72 lakh rupees medicine, the government use provision, Section 100 can help it. But this has been never used by the government. And courts, like in the SEBA's case, have pushed for action, but the state remains inactive. Even the court has asked in its order to the government to use that provision and make the drug affordable, but that something has not been done yet. And why this is something is very much doable, because other countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and USA, even the countries that as such state, which is the world's richest country, but they still try to make cheaper drugs for their people. So that is the case. What is preventing India to follow the suit? Why they are not following the same example to do that? That is the big question. And to support my argument, I would like to bring up certain human rights connection through the human rights conventions. First of all, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 24, states that state parties recognize the right of the child to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health and to facilitate for the treatment of illness and rehabilitation of health. States parties shall strive to ensure that no child is deprived of his or her right of access to such healthcare services. So this is something is a very clear international obligation on every government who is a party to this convention. India is a party to this convention. And this is something is also a kind of obligation, not a kind of, it's an obligation on the Indian government as well and the Indian judiciary to implement this article in their legal provisions, in their domestic laws, in which the right of the child should be protected. Then the next is Article 12 of ICACR. ICACR stands for, sorry for the interruption. ICACR stands for International Covenant for Social and Cultural Rights. And Article 12 states that state parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. Coming home, Article 21 of the Constitution of India guarantees the fundamental right to protection of life and personal liberty. And this is something is very much specific to the Constitution of India. And then what are the consequences from denial to abuse to inequity? First of all, it results in early death, disability and prolonged suffering, emotional and financial ruin for families, social exclusion of children with disabilities. And the ripple effect is what? Untreated diseases in children lead to mental health issues, vulnerability to abuse, and intergenerational poverty. What needs to be changed? There should be proactive government use of compulsory licenses, government use provision, such as I mentioned, Section 83, 84, 92, and 100 of the Indian Patent. There is need for global IP law reform through WHO, WTO, and WIPO joint mechanisms, and also the use of flexibilities under the international agreements, such as the TRIPS agreement, which gives liberty to make the medicines more affordable. And with this, I would like to conclude that every child deserves a good health, and health is a right, not a luxury. Tear down the patent walls and make medicines affordable for all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a wonderful session, and we got this opportunity to have you here. So now I request again all the panel members to do the honors to dear Shirin Sayed, ma'am, and kindly on all of you your videos so that we can have a group photo with ma'am. Technical team, please ping us.
गणेशराव आवाज वाढवा तर तुमच्याकडचा मला ऐकू
Yes,
येतं म्हणजे
Pankaj.
Thank you, ma'am. We truly grateful
पिक
for
करो
your
क्या
time and
फोटो है
valuable
पहले
contribution. Now I will kindly requested all the participants to post their questions in chat box, and we also have posted a link to feedback form of this particular global conclave. Everybody must fulfill the feedback form. It is necessary for the participation certificates. With this, we move to the final session, last session, valedictory session. For this valedictory session, we have invited Mr. Eri Vascoro, the session as a session president. It is my privilege to introduce our today's final guest, Mr. Eri Vascoro. He is an accomplished interdisciplinary scholar and international policy analyst with a strong academic and applied background in international development, migration governance, gender justice, and socio-legal research. He is currently pursuing his PhD in development planning, management, and innovation at the Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. Sir has served as a policy analyst for the G20 strategic framework at the Consulate General of Indonesia at Mumbai. He is also contributed significantly to research and policy projects at United Nations, United Nations, and with other international organizations. In academia, he has also held roles in research fellow, visiting lecturer at leading institutes, including AIT Thailand and European Master in Migration and Intercultural Relations at the University of Edinburgh. He has also authored and cited several publications in human rights, disaster governance, migration, and has actively represented in Indonesia in global youth forums. Sir, we warmly welcome you and invite to address the gathering. The virtual stage is yours. Mr. Vascoro, sir.
Thank you so much. Very good afternoon, everyone from UN Women Bangkok. Distinguished guests, fellow speakers, and dear participants, I'm so honored to be here. To be honest, I just arrived from a very much large and big travel, following the UN action in this situation. And it is with a great humility that myself, share this closing reflection. For me, this international conclave, safeguarding innocence worldwide, has been a more than platform for the discussion. It has awakened our shared senses of moral responsibility. On this International Day Against Drug Abuse and Reducing the Trafficking, we have come together across border, professions, and personal experiences to address the threats and the challenges that deeply affect the rights and the dignity of the children. Runner RCP Jackie Wessels remind us that judicial activism, when grounded in UN values and the conventions on the rights of the child, becomes more than legal practice. Personally, it becomes a form of protections against exploitation, trafficking, and institutional value. Against the further, Dr. Mary Arthurs expanded our understanding by placing child trafficking within wide crises like displacement and also armed conflict and social breakdown. And she made it clear that trafficking is not just a crime, it is reflecting society neglect. And basically, what Dr. Mary has done amazing and very relevant with my work right now in UN Women. Dr. Ramadevi Goodmela also brought us a very much closer to the reality in India, and it's also opened the new perspective, and it's very much interesting. And as the information shared now, I'm also joining in the two device so that my staff also can join with this very much good opportunity. And back to Dr. Rama, her work with the DGA in 2015, I hope that I'm not wrong, show how the national laws can truly protect when driven by the compassion and clarity. She highlight us that the prevention and early care as an essential achieving SDGs number 3 and SDGs number 5. And this is a very much linear and pretty comprehensive with the SDGs of UN current missions we out of. And the last Ms. Shirin said gave us the powerful reminder that access to medicine, especially for the child affected by the drug abuse, is not just a matter of charity, but is a justice. And her insight challenged us to rethink about the global threat, innovations, public health through the lens of equity and dignity. And for me personally, from these diverse voices, one shared message that I can share in this very much amazing opportunity. It's clear that the crisis we are right now connected and affected. Actually, they demand responses that coordinated, rooted in the human rights. So allow me to propose three very much amazing and common action. The first, formalize our effort. Here, let us move and go beyond the dialogue and build the system that connected within law, health, and education to protect every child. It is not easy, but let's try. Second, share and preserve our knowledge. And I recommend the turning our contributions into the publications or policy guide that can be inspired the real challenge and change. And for here, we, you and women in Bangkok will be able to help you to collaborate in the further collaborations and in the next projects that might change the world. And the last, deepen global collaborations. And here, let this be our beginning of more than just research, advocacy, and capacity building. Then protecting children is not just task of one nation and one field, and like one university, of course. It is the duty of our generation. Based on my work with you, and I can share that I have seen that the true progress happened when advocacy meets the real implementation. Because in protecting their innocence, we restore our humanity. And I closely thank you. And of course, I look forward to taking the next step with all of the scholars, academicians, and I would like to say, Dr. Shahista, congratulations for your promotions. And I hope this knowledge will begin together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was really an honor for us to have a person representing United Nations. So it was really, truly a global conclave today. Thank you so much, sir. Yes.
Madam, I would also like to take
So
an
I request
opportunity.
everyone, we can.
Shaista ma'am,
Yes.
I would like to thank them.
Yeah.
I would really like to thank all the speakers for turning this platform into a powerful space, specifically for learning, reflection, and transformation. So thank you, all the speakers. Thank you from bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So now I request everyone a group photo and a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. As we come towards the conclusion of this insightful international conclave, it is my privilege to deliver vote of thanks on behalf of both organizing institute. First and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed chief patrons, Shri Prakash Sundarrao Solanke Sahib, President of Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, Shri Satish Bhau Chavan, Secretary of Marathwada Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, Shri Rajendra Jagtap Sahib, Head Member of College Development Committee, SSRA Law College, Shri Advocate K.S. Pandit Sir, CDC Member, SSRA Law College, and Srimati Varsha Shivajirao Jondhle, President of Vighnaharata Trust, Asangaon, for their constant support and encouragement. We are deeply thankful to our conveners and co-conveners, Dr. Shahista Inamdar ma'am and Dr. Purnima Eknath Surve ma'am, for their vision and dynamic leadership in making this international conclave possible. Our sincere appreciation goes to our distinguished keynote speaker, Her Honor Jackie Wessels, our esteemed technical session speaker, Dr. Adam Mary Jolan Swami, Dr. Rama Devi Gudmela, Advocate Shirin Sayyar, and our respected valedictory session president, Mr. Ari Baskaro, for sharing their valuable time, expertise, and global perspective with us. A special thanks to all my faculty members, technical team, organizing committee, and student volunteers for their dedicated efforts behind this webinar. Last but not least, a big thank you to all our participants from our various institutes who joined us virtually, interacted, and made this event meaningful. Thank you, one and all. Now, I request all participant dignitaries to turn on their camera for 1 minute so we can take a group photo.
Thank you so much. And also to my fellow learned principals of various law colleges who have taken the efforts to share all these things to their faculty members and also to the students. And that is why we could have this wonderful, more than 400 people have joined, registered, and they could get this opportunity. And once the feedback form has been filled up, we'll be sharing all the certificates in the group, as well as we will try to share it with you on your email IDs also. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you.